Top of the day, beautiful people. Shayla, great rising cousin. Tawana, shalom, shalom. Audrey, shalom. Anita, greetings. Vinette, greetings. Greetings, and everybody else here. All right, y'all. Happy Wednesday. It is August the 24th, 2022. Day 194 of year 4, reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1,100. No, I'm sorry, I keep doing it. 1,212. 12. And today we're picking back up on page 508. 508 in the book of Cosmogony and Prophecy, found in OAHSPE, otherwise known as Big Blue. Call it Big Blue because it's a big blue book. Tanya, Grand Rising, Cringes, Shalom, Lavon, Blessings, Tigva. Hey, girl, hey. Kate, Infinite Risings, Uncle JB. Shalom, shalom. Okay, y'all. So let's get started. Father, you are the greatest source of all things seen and unseen. All right, y'all. Page 505. Let's get started. I don't want to waste no time today. Definitely look like I put the wrong page. Did I? Oh, no. That's right. Okay, chapter 6. My marker yesterday. Okay. Page 508, chapter 6. To return to the master vortex, refer to plate 42, Tosang. Real quick, everybody remember that's the arrowhead. It looks like a sideways arrowhead, but it's a vortex that's sideways with the smaller vortexes inside of it. So that's that, plate 42, Tosang. Starting off with the plates. Okay. Back to page 508. To return to the master vortex, refer to plate 42, Tosang. It is an error to say that the eye seeth the sun by the means of a straight line. The line of sight to the sun is spiral and oval, but it is equally an error to say that light cometh from the sun to the earth, or to any other planet, which hath given rise to the still greater errors of computing the time of travel of light and the degree of heat of a planet by its proximity to the sun. To determine the distance of the sun from the earth, allowance must be made for the vortexian spirality, the spiral of vortex. You got to consider that. By which reason the sun is, in fact, some 7 million miles nearer the earth than its measure would indicate. The same rule applieth to all planets save the moon. And even this is seen by means of the curved lines of the earth's vortex. As the moon's vortex rideth around the outer part of the earth's vortex, we discover the elliptic course thereof, so by the roads of a comet do we discover the spirality and curve of the master's vortex. Observe a comet in different positions as it followeth the sun's vortex. When the head of a comet falleth within the overlapping waves of the sun's vortex, the head is sometimes swallowed up and sometimes driven backward, spitting flames of fire the while. The nearer the comet approacheth an elliptic course, the longer it will live. The opposite condition applieth to hyperbolic comets, for they oft die or dissolve in one journey. If a comet be seen today in hyperbole and in any angle of the heavens, and if in 10 years or 100 years a comet be seen in the same place, it would be an error to say it was the same comet. It is an error to prophesy. After prophesied, it has the word estimate in square brackets. It is an error to prophesy, estimate the heat of Venus being more or less because of her approximation nearer the sun. There is no more heat in the master vortex in general than there is 100 miles above the earth, save except when very near the sun's photosphere, that is to say, within 100 or 200,000 miles at most. Tabitha, shalom. Set apart living, shalom. Elijah, shalom. Shebrew, all praises to the Creator. Page 509, verse 6. There is a sun planet in the center of the photosphere at a distance interior from 3,000 miles to 30,000 miles, and it is light all the way around. But within the body of the photosphere, there are numerous planets, some globular, some elongated and irregular. These are usually called sunspots because when they present their negative surface toward the Earth, they seem black. For the most part, these planets in the photosphere are rather external than internal at the times they appear as spots. They have independent motions in their respective places, wherefrom it may be said, when an unlearned man saith, the sun, we know what he meaneth, but when a learned man saith, the sun, we know not what he meaneth, whether the whole central group or the sun planet only. If one were to go into a circular field a little way from the middle, and there construct an electric battery, from which he extendeth outward a multitude of wires to small batteries in distant parts of the field, his batteries would then represent somewhat the solar phalanx, the one central being the sun. There would be more volume of electricity manifested at the central body, but the intensity of the spark at one of the small batteries would, other things being equal, be equal to the spark at the central battery. Neither is there more intensity of the heat at the sun than in any electric flash. Neither must it be surmised that the sun's center is an electric battery, nor that it supplieth in any sense anything to any other planet. As previously stated, there are two things, corpor and eth. The latter is the solvent of corpor. Whirling vortices of the solution make planets. Whirling vortices of the solution make planets. And these are the sum and substance of all things manifested in the universe. As to the cause of these whirlpools, see chapter 3, Book of Jehovah. Let's go back real quick because we definitely already read through chapter 3 of the Book of Jehovah. The Book of Jehovah starts on page 6, which would be the first book. Chapter 3. Oh, it's a whole... Clearly, I wasn't even thinking about vortex back here, but listen, let's read it. It's only 8 verses. Hold on, mark my spot. Right here. Okay. Jump to page 7. If you got your book, or if you're looking at it online, it's the Book of Jehovah, chapter 3. Thus spake Jehovah, by the light of Cosmon proclaimed he these things amongst the nations of the earth. Man looked upward in prayer, desiring to know the manner of all created things, both on earth and in heaven. And Jehovah answered him, saying, first of all, let me just say this. I did not even realize we was about to read this, and my little words of praise said greatest source of all things seen and unseen. That's crazy. Listen. Okay. Thus spake Jehovah, by the light of Cosmon proclaimed he these things amongst the nations of the earth. Man looked upward in prayer, desiring to know the manner of all created things, both on earth and in heaven. Earth, seen, heaven, unseen. Bruh, this is... And Jehovah answered him, saying, the whirlwind made I as a sign to man, the manner of my created worlds, as thou beholdest the power of the whirlwind, gathering up the dust of the earth and driving it together, Know that even so do I bring together the Ag and Ga and nebula in the firmament of heaven by the power of the whirlwind. Create I the corporal sun, moons, and stars. This sons is plural. Let me read it over. The whirlwind made I as a sign to man the manner of my created worlds. As thou beholdest the power of the whirlwind, gathering up the dust of the earth and driving it together, know that even so do I bring together the Ag and Ga and nebula in the firmament of heaven. By the power of the whirlwind created I the corporal suns, moons, and stars. And I commanded man to name the whirlwinds in the ethereal firmament, and he named them vortices and warp. According to their shape named he them. And after the first he named them vortices. After name 7 is a reference number 7, and down at the bottom is called. So for name, in the previous version it was called, and he called them vortices. And the same thing after the name in the last part of the sentence where it says according to their shape named he them. Same thing, reference number 8, and down at the bottom it also says called. Okay, so he called them vortices and warp, and their shape he called he them. Okay, verse 4. By the power of rotation, swift driving forth in the extreme parts, condense I the atmospheric worlds that float in the firmament, and these become my corporal worlds. In the midst of the vortices made I them, and by the power of the vortices I turned them on their axis and carried them in orbits I allotted to them. Wider than the moons of a planet have I created the vortices, and they carry the moons also. Let me just highlight these whole 8 verses, right? Okay. Verse 5. Around about some of my corporal worlds have I given nebulous belts and rings, that man might comprehend the rotation of my vortexian worlds. For each and every corporal world created I a vortex first, and by its rotation, and by the place in the firmament whither it travelleth, causeth I the vortex to conceive the corporal world. A great vortex created I for the sun, and within this vortex, and subject to it, made I the vortices of many of the corporal worlds. The sun vortex I caused to rotate, and I gave it power to carry other vortices within it. According to their destiny and position are they thus carried forth and around about the sun. Think not, O man, that I created the sky a barren waste and void of use. Even as man in the corporal form is adapted to the corporal earth, so is he in the spiritual form adapted to my ethereal worlds. 3 great estates have I bestowed on man: the corporal, the atmospheric, and the etherian. And that's the end of this chapter. But after etherian, it has reference letter C, which we read before. So let's go read it again because I forgot what it said. Okay. Okay. On page 13, C says, C plate 18, Etheria, page 461, 1882 edition. 461? Oh, okay. Yeah, this is actually a picture that I posted last week with all of the other ones from the God's Book of Being. Okay, on page 461, this is plate 18. It's showing a picture of Ethereum. Look like a box with a bunch of black and white bubbles. Okay, so let's head back to our daily reading on page 509, verse 10. Jamil, shalom, shalom. Tiffany. Hey, girl, hey. Latoya, shalom, shalom. Okay. Page 509, page 10. Verse 10. It is an error to say the sun threw off rings or planets. No thing hath power to throw off itself or a part thereof, save some living creature. They have instanced water flying from the periphery of a rapidly rotating wheel. This would merely imply that someone was trying to fasten worlds on the sun's periphery, but that the sun cast them off. Who that someone was, they say not, nor do they offer a reason as to how such thrown off substance came to be in the way of the sun in the first place. It is equally erroneous to say that the presence of this planet or that throweth an influence on mortals according to their birth under certain stars. Oh my gosh. Hold up, let me read that again. I should have kept reading the next sentence. This is the same astrological ignorance that attributeth, hold on, let's just read it all again. Verse 11. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me finish reading before I say this. Let me make sure I'm about to say, let me just read. Verse 11. It is equally erroneous to say that the presence of this planet or that throweth an influence on mortals according to their birth under certain stars. It is this same astrological ignorance that attributeth to the sun the throwing off of light and heat, and of possessing attraction of gravitation, and of throwing off rings to make planets thereof. Man hath ever sought in corporeal things for the cause of this and that. He buildeth up certain tables and diagrams, and calleth it science or philosophy. If on one morning he put on the left shoe first, and something happened that day, he proveth by that shoe a new philosophy. We do be doing dumb stuff like that, don't we? Boy, Father help us all. Let me read that again. That's got to be in the title. Man hath ever sought in corporal things the cause of this and that. Like we're looking in the wrong place for the source of all things. Look, bro, this is amazing. Man hath ever sought in corporal things for the cause of this and that. He buildeth up certain tables and diagrams, and calleth it science or philosophy. If on one morning he put on the left shoe first, and something happened that day, he proveth by that shoe a new philosophy. By the tides he proveth the cause of the moon, or by the moon the cause of the tides. Anything under the sun that is corporal, rather than search in the subtle and potent unseen worlds. Y'all, I really did not read ahead. I'm just blown away. Okay. Let it be premised then that the Ethereal firmament is not a waste, an interminable nothingness, but that, on the contrary, it is in many regions, even between the earth and the sun, sufficiently dense for a corporal man to dwell upon and to walk about, even as on the earth. Some of these Ethereal worlds are as transparent as water or clear glass, and some opaque. And after some of these Ethereal worlds has a reference number 8. And down at the bottom, 8 says, some of these Ethereal worlds are as transparent. Says the same exact thing up here. It just has brackets, square brackets around Ethereal worlds. Okay, verse 9. Some of them are as large as the earth, and some 1,000 times larger. Reference number 9 at the very beginning of the sentence is after them. Some of them is reference number 9 down at the bottom, and it says, some of these Ethereal worlds are large as. Okay. Up here, it just changed the bolded parts down in the reference, which is these Ethereal worlds, to just some of them. Okay. Some of them are as large as the earth, and some 1,000 times larger. Some are as immense facsimiles of snowflakes with arches 1,000 miles high and broad. Some of them are as oceans of water, some transparent and some opaque, and some of them dense clouds of ashes. But so great are the numbers and so vast the varieties of these thousands of millions of Ethereal worlds that description is impossible. Yet by the telescopic power of the Earth's vortexian lens, these worlds are magnified so as to seem to be non-entities. Worlds in solution, the Ethereal heavens, are therefore governed by no power in or escaping from corporal worlds. So it's saying everything that's going on up here in my creation ain't got nothing to do with what's happening down there, right? In the language, in a certain way, right? Because as above, so below, clearly we get that. But y'all get what I'm saying. Keeping in the context of what we're reading right now. Verse 14, worlds in solution, the Ethereal heavens are therefore governed by no power in or escaping from corporal worlds. In the language of the ancient prophets, they are a law unto themselves. And yet these unseen worlds have much power and influence on the vortices of corporal worlds. In making observations with spectroscope, these otherwise unseen worlds are sometimes seen, but in a general way, the spectroscope revealeth only the refraction of high altitudes in the Earth's vortex. It is an error to say the spectrum divideth the sun's rays per se. It is an error to say the spectroscope hath revealed certain colors in the atmosphere or photosphere of the sun or other stars. Its revelations, for the most part, pertain to what is contained in the vortexian lens of the earth, no matter whether the view be toward the sun or another star. All right, chapter 7. Having shown the impossibility of philosophy based on corporal knowledge to demonstrate truth in regard to unseen things and in regard to planets distant from the earth, it becometh a part of these revelations to put the student in the way to learn from the unseen forces which govern all corporal things, man included, as a general and important part. We need a different highlight for that. I'm going to read that again. My yellow highlight going out. No worries. I have many backups. Okay, let me read it again. Verse 7. I'm sorry. I keep doing that. Chapter 7, verse 1. Having shown the impossibility of philosophy based on corporal knowledge to demonstrate truth in regard to unseen things and in regard to planets distant from the earth, it becometh a part of these revelations to put the student in the way to learn from the unseen forces which govern all corporal things, man included, as a general and important part. When a heavy stone falleth on a man and holdeth him down, it is sufficient to say the stone ruleth over the man. If an epidemic come upon a city because of uncleanliness, it is well to consider that cause also. Nevertheless, if an epidemic be periodical to a certain city, even when not unclean, it is wise to prophesy an unseen cause. The same rule applieth in comparing one locality with another. In certain regions of the earth, certain diseases are common. In certain times of the earth, As to cycles of 3,000 years, certain diseases were common. In certain places of the earth, man hath at times, thousands of years ago, attained to great knowledge and virtue, but his whole country in after centuries became a wilderness. It is not the place of a prophet to answer these things by the accusation of ignorance or war. The prophet must account for that tendency in man to fall into ignorance and into war. In other words, he must find the cause of causes. That's definitely got to be the title today. The prophet must find the cause of causes, right? Don't be out here ignorantly prophesying. Let me read it again. Matter of fact, it's good. Yes, babe. Yes. Let me go back to verse 2. When a heavy stone falleth on a man and holdeth him down, it is sufficient to say, the stone ruleth over the man. If an epidemic come upon a city because of uncleanliness, it is well to consider that cause also. Nevertheless, if an epidemic be periodical to a certain city, even when not unclean, it is wise to prophesy an unseen cause. The same ruleth applieth in comparing one locality with another. In certain regions of the earth, certain diseases are common. In certain times of the earth, as to cycles of 3,000 years, certain diseases were common. In certain places of the earth, man hath at times, thousands of years ago, attained to great knowledge and virtue, but his whole country in after centuries became a wilderness. It is not the place of a prophet to answer these things by the accusation of ignorance or war. The prophet must account for that tendency in man to fall into ignorance and into war. In other words, he must find the cause of causes. This is making a little bit more sense why this book is called the Book of Cosmogony and Prophecy, especially because of what we just read. Like, in order to really understand what's going on here, not just in an atmosphere with nations and stuff, even with individual people, right? You have to understand cosmology in the first cause of all things, the cause of all things seen and unseen. And we can only rightly prophesy here in the flesh if we understand the cause of all things and how they are created from its source, which is only found in atmosphere, ether, or in heaven, right? This is making a little bit more sense. Okay. It is not the place of a prophet to answer these things by the accusation of ignorance or war. The prophet must account for that tendency in man to fall into ignorance and into war. In other words, he must find the cause of causes. So you can't just prophesy that war or something is happening because of some other unseen thing. It definitely very well could be another cycle that man is going through. And it's possible that we could have fallen into ignorance and the cycle of war again. So first, let's make sure that we haven't fallen into the cycle of ignorance or into the cycle of war, according to how all things play out over and over and over again, right? When you find out we're not falling into that state, then it's wise to consider the unseen cause of this shenaniganizing period that's going on. Okay. Let me read that one more time. It is not the place of a prophet to answer these things by the accusation of ignorance or war. The prophet must account for that tendency in man to fall into ignorance and into war. In other words, he must find the cause of causes. Verse 5, page 510. At certain periods of time, for hundreds of years, nations have dwelt in peace and have risen in virtue, then turned to war within themselves and gone down in death. The prophets of old divided time into cycles of 3,000 years with slight variations, and they found that at such periods of time, some certain impulses came upon the people causing them to try to be better and wiser, even as the same feeling is this day manifesting itself in many nations. Clearly, we're in one of those cycles, right? Everybody casting off all the spooky shenanigans of religion, trying to raise our vibrations up higher, right? The prophets of old divided time into cycles of 3,000 years with slight variations, and they found that at such periods of time, some certain impulse came upon the people, causing them to try to be better and wiser, even as the same feeling is this day manifesting itself in many nations. The scale then riseth for 400 years, more or less, and after that, wars and epidemics come upon the people. They begin then to decline, especially in virtue and peace, but the general intelligence suffereth little for about another 600 or 700 years, after which time they destroy their libraries and records and reduce themselves to ignorance and vice. Then followeth a darkness of 1,000 or more years with slight intermissions. In other 600 years, the corporal senses, intellect, began to ascend. Self-conceit cometh upon them. They think they are the beginning of wisdom on the earth. Then cometh another cycle of light. Angels descend from the unseen worlds. New revelations crop out in every quarter. Inspiration cometh upon mortals, and they go to the opposite extreme, superstition and obedience to unseen influences. This is good. Let me just go back and read this whole verse again. All of that was verse 7. Now let me go back. Let's go back to verse 5. At certain periods of time, for hundreds of years, nations have dwelt in peace and have risen in virtue, then turned to war within themselves and gone down in death. The prophets of old divided time into cycles of 3,000 years with slight variations. And they found that at such periods of time, some certain impulse came upon the people, causing them to try to be better and wiser, even as the same feeling is this day manifesting itself in many nations. The scale then riseth for 400 years, more or less, and after that, wars and epidemics come upon the people. They begin then to decline, especially in virtue and peace, but the general intelligence suffereth little for about another 600 or 700 years, after which time they destroy their libraries and records and reduce themselves to ignorance and vice. Then followeth a darkness of 1,000 or more years with slight intermissions. In other 600 years, the corporal senses, intellect, began to ascend. Self-conceit cometh upon them. They think they are the beginning of wisdom on earth. Then cometh another cycle of light. Angels descend from unseen worlds. New revelations crop out in every quarter. Inspiration cometh upon mortals, and they go to the opposite extreme. Superstition and obedience to unseen influences. Clearly, religion is in that particular phase, right? Superstition and obedience to unseen influences. Such then is the general character and behavior of man during a cycle, and he riseth and falleth in all these particulars as regularly as the tides of the ocean, that man may begin to comprehend these things and learn to classify them so as to rise in wisdom and virtue, and thus overcome these epidemic sessions of cycles. These revelations are chiefly made. Let's highlight that in a different color. Hold on. I got to use this term. Epidemic seasons of cycles. This got to go in the title too. I'm going to make it work. I be trying to put everything in a title. Such then is the general character and behavior of man during a cycle, and he riseth and falleth in all these particulars as regularly as the tides of the ocean, that man may begin to comprehend these things and learn to classify them so as to rise in wisdom and virtue, and thus overcome these epidemic seasons of cycles. These revelations are chiefly made. As previously shown, there are positive and negative forces forever going to and escaping from the earth. Without these, no creature could live on the earth. The negative imparteth to man his corporal growth and corporal desires, passions, and so on, according to the corporal solutions in the firmament and their precipitations on the earth. As to quality and quantity, so will man be affected and inclined to manifest. These influences are easily discernible by some persons. One is depressed by a dull day, another inclined to drunkenness and fighting. By a bright day, man is inspired to energy. A Suis is so susceptible to vortexian currents, he can realize the qualities of a medicine whilst it is yet in the glass bottle by merely holding it in his hand, or know the character of the writer of a letter by holding the letter in his hand. Yet all this is accomplished by the vortexian current of the article in question. That is so amazing, right? Which should really make us want to really make sure that the vortexian current flowing through our body is clear and untarnished, right? That way we can clearly see. Because a lot of time when we see and we wrongly prophesy or wrongly characterize things, is because we are looking through our own dirty lenses of life. Listen, we're in the book of Cosmogony and Prophecy, page 510, verse 12. A Suis is so susceptible to vortexian currents, he can realize the qualities of a medicine whilst it is yet in a glass bottle by merely holding it in his hand, or know the character of the writer of a letter by holding the letter in his hand. Yet all this is accomplished by the vortexian current of the article in question. These revelations, however, are not in reference to individuals, but to nations and peoples in periods of time embracing hundreds of years and thousands of years. It is an error to say that whilst the corporeal worlds are organized with fixed orbits and uses, the unseen worlds are nothing, or at best, not organized. They are organized with orbits, places, forms, figures, and so on, as definitely as are the corporal worlds. Their times and seasons are regular and well provided. In the passage of the earth, in its own roadway, it goeth amongst the... In the passage of the earth, in its own roadway, it goeth amongst these ethereal and atmospherian worlds regularly, so that the periods of inspiration and periods of darkness are not haphazard. It is not the purpose of these revelations to work out prophecies, leaving man... Hold on, let me go back. I was reading it wrong. I read it right, but I was jumping words. Sometimes I read words at the end of the sentence at the beginning, and I just got to stop and go back. Okay. Verse 15. In the passage of the earth in its own roadway, it goeth amongst these ethereal and atmospherian worlds regularly, so that the periods of inspiration and periods of darkness are not haphazard. It is not the purpose of these revelations to work out prophecies, leaving nothing for man to do, but to call his attention to the unseen forces that rule on the earth and show him the way to make the prophecies himself. Where is my sister? Tiffany, I just saw your comment. Alicia, girl, did you come in here yet? I'm going to have to call her. Stephen, shalom, shalom. Gloria, good morning. Intuitive Goat, happy new day. Listen, hold on. I'm going to have to call her. Reminds you of the show 100? Listen, okay. Let me go back. Verse 16. It is not the purpose of these revelations to work out prophecies, leaving nothing for man to do, but to call his attention to the unseen forces that rule on the earth and show him the way to make the prophecies himself. In Auric Nebugala. Okay. In Auric Nebugala, the student will draw a curved line representing the travel of the great serpent for 3,000 years. This shall be cut across in 8 places to represent the periods of light. Okay, and after periods of light, light has reference letter number H. Not number, I'm sorry. Letter H. We got numbers and letters. Forgive me. Okay, so let's go to the end of the chapter. Okay. This shall be cut across in 8 places to represent the periods of light. Okay, the letter H is found on page 515. H says, this would imply that for a Dan of 3,000 years, each period of light would occur at approximately every 375 years, which would be periods of sub-cycle Dan on average. The actual span of a sub-cycle Dan, however, does vary. See Dan in the glossary. Okay, so let's go to Dan. Dan the man. Dan. Dan in the glossary. Dan. Okay, Dan is on page 773. Dan is a time when a solar system travels through a region of relatively intense spiritual light, which is an area where eth predominates, lacking corporeal content in solution. Its effects last for the period of time it takes for the solar system to pass through it. See Book of Thor, chapter 6, verse 11. Okay. Let's go to Book of Thor. We're not even done with that. Hold on. Let's find the Book of Thor. We already read through the Book of Thor. Didn't we? Yeah. Page 110 begins the Book of Thor. I'm going to say chapter 6. 3, 4. Hold on. Oh, it's at the top. What am I doing? Let's split. Chapter 6, verse 11. On page 121. I have prepared places of darkness in the Etherian firmament and places of light, and my corporal worlds must travel through them, for so I created them. And these places of darkness and places of light are as changes of seasons for my harvest. Read it again. I have prepared places of darkness in the Etherian firmament and places of light, and my corporal worlds must travel through them, for so I created them. And these places of darkness and places of light are as changes of seasons for my harvest. Okay, so let's go back. A dawn of Dan describes the initial burst of light that accompanies the arrival of a new ark, making the beginning of an approximately 3,000 year Danha. It is preceded by spirit manifestations and by signs and wonders. Dan is synonymous with Dang, D-A-N-G. See Book of Safa. Within a Danha, the intensity of light varies, being strongest at the dawn of Dan, with incremental sub-cycle Dans of lesser intensity that usually fall in some variation of 200, 400, 500, 600, and 1,000 year intervals. I'm going to read it again. Within a Danha, the intensity of light varies, being strongest at the dawn of Dan, with incremental sub-cycle Dans of lesser intensity that usually fall in some variation of 200, 400, 500, 600, and 1,000 year intervals, which is also similar to the different harvests that happen at these particular intervals of time, okay, that we learned about. Okay, so it said go to see Book of Safa. Okay, let's Book of Safa. And look for Dang in the Book of Safa. Book of Safa. It didn't say where in the Book of Safa. Let's see. It starts on page 521. Oh, we actually about to start that book. Hold on, maybe it's in like the first chapter or something. If not, we're just gonna kind of keep going and we'll figure it out once we get there. The wheel. I'm just trying to see if I see Dang stick out here in the Book of Safa. Yeah, we're just gonna have a table of key, table of key, tablet. Okay, we just gonna go back. When we read through it, I'm sure we'll run into it. All right, because it didn't give me a specific page number, which means it's probably all throughout the book. Okay, who we at? 48 minutes. Y'all, we'll be done with this like we'll probably be finished with this today, definitely. Okay, so let's go back to page 510 in the Book of Cosmogony and Prophecy. Down in verse 17, I'll just read it again. In Orek Ne Ba-Gala, the student will draw a curved line representing the travel of the great serpent for 3,000 years. This shall be cut across in 8 places to represent the periods of light. The places between them shall be made dark and light according to the history of man's behavior during said 3,000 years. Okay, let me go back. The places between them shall be made. Okay, wait. Hold on. Let me finish reading. If I start jumping ahead of myself. The places between this shall be cut across. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so it's on the next page on 511. I'm about to show y'all. Hold on. This shall be cut across in 8 places to represent the periods of light. The places between them shall be made dark and light according to the history of man's behavior during said 3,000 years. War shall be represented by black. The duration of wars shall be marked with a cut called change. Numbers shall designate the degrees of historical manifestations. For every great division of the earth, make 1 Orak Nebugala. The scale should be from 1 to 1,000 for the entire length, and from 1 to 1,000 from one dawn to another, and from 1 to 1,000 for each and every characteristic designated. Number man 1 and 33 and the moon 1 and 18, and number the earth 1 and 365. These were called by the ancients the grades of 1,000. So in Seti. Okay, so let me show you this real quick. It's plate 58 is Orak Nebugala. Shoot, I might try and fit that in the title. Okay, so this is it right here. So you can kind of see the timeline, and it's cut in 8 places. And getting close to it, you can actually see the timeline. I'm going to read this. It's probably too small to see here, but I'm going to read it because it's getting blurred the closer I get. So we can read it in a second. Okay, and I'll take a picture of it if you don't have the book so you can see. All right. Verse 18. These periods will be found to come under certain numbers: 11, 33, 66, 99, 100, 200, 400, 666, 333, 66, 18, 500, 600, 365, 99, 33, 18, and so on. Not that the numbers as such have anything to do with such matters. Thus, the moon's time is 18, the earth's 365, a generation 33, Dan 200, 400, 600, 500, nitrogen or darkness 66 and 666, and so on. For which reason the following tables of time and measurements were established. Okay. These times, 12 changes, 23. Okay, so with this strip, it looks like of Ethera. Within it, the lines and the cuts. We're going to start at the top. Right, hold on. Should we start at the bottom? Learning. I think we're supposed to start at the bottom because it looks like faith. Clearly, we can tell faith is developed. Wait, but faith is at the bottom too. Hold on. So should we go from the top or the bottom? Let me just read it. If it 10. I'm gonna just read it. I'm gonna just read it from the bottom, Dawn of Dan. Okay? Okay, so from the bottom up. Did it say? Hold on. One scale. Number. I'm going to just read it from the bottom up. Okay. It's the left side and the right side. So at the bottom, you have a small portion. Then there's a break. And that's the Dawn of Dan. On the... Hold on. Okay. So on the right side, it's the periods of time. And on the left side, clearly is showing what's happening on the earth during this time. Okay, so from the bottom, let me see. Cosmogony, Cal, shalom, shalom. Okay, I thought somebody might have made a comment. Okay. All right, so from the bottom up, plate 58 on page 511, you have the first little portion of the black long square with the first break, and at that first break, it has Dawn of Dan on the right, but to the left, it has faith. Then the next block on the left side, you have Aji 66, Fools 333. And to the left side of it, it has from the bottom up 48, Peace, 20, Arbitration, 16, Worship, 66, War. And then with this next little piece is Dawn. And right across from it on the left side, it has 100, Order. Then it goes to the next block, and it has High Dan, Seri 11, Nebula 360, Haga 99, Epidemics, Aji 666, GA 66, Nestor 111. You go to the left side, starting from the bottom up, it has Faith, Peace, 88, Worship, 99, War, Change, 10, arbitration. 66, war, change. 750, learning war. Above that is 66, and it has war. And so there's another break with white, and then you have the dawn of Dan. Tay 999, Re 744. And to the left side of that block, from the bottom up, you have faith. So faith begins anew at every dawn of Dan, as I'm seeing so it starts at faith, then it changes, and then it ends in war. It begins in faith and ends in war. Okay, so with this one, it's faith, then it's 999, war, change, 66, war, 88, war, and that's the end of that period. Then you have another break, which is another dawn of Dan. Then it has epidemics, Annos 74, Ni 88. Then to the left side of that block, you have faith, 644, worship, change, arbitration. And then there's another break. Then you have a new dawn of Dan. And then it's dawn of Dan, Has, Haas, 365, plagues, Foos, Foos, 66. And you go to the left side of that block, from the bottom up, you have faith, anarchy, 480, learning, change. And then there's another break. Then you have a new dawn of Dan for this next period. It's dawn of Dan, Aji 30, Aji 36. And you go to the left side of that block, from the bottom up, you have faith, change, 408, destruction, 66, war. Then there's another break in time. And then you have dawn of Dan, Aji 20, famines, Sita 126, plenty, Mira 100. You go to the left side of that block, from the bottom on up, it begins faith, change, 200, learning, 1000, peace, 700, worship, change, 90, learning, 680, worship, 50, arbitration. Then there's another break in time, and there's a new dawn of Dan. At the very top, it has dawn of Dan, and that's it for there. It just breaks and cuts off altogether. Then on the left side, it has faith. So I think we read it right, because it seemed like as time progressed up, the understanding of man and the worshipful states in man began to develop, and it, the peace and all and learning, all that stuff is at the top. So yeah, I think we read that right. Okay, so now beside that chart, we have two lists, and it goes from A all the way to Z, and each word has a number beside it. 4? I say 4 or foos? And else. Okay, so some of these words we actually saw in this cycle. So it's given numbers for each of these words, and a lot of these you'll find in that plate that we just read of Orakne Bagala. I think I said that right. I may have said it wrong. Okay. AIN 16, Aliyah 248, Anos 74, Atu 441, Alex 11, Alif 100, Abram 9, Ari 36, Ba 467, Baez 74, Beth 999, Brahin 99, Boy BOI 476, Ban 666, Seri 11, Serez 111, Saret 112, Sariv 48, Kra 98, Sita 126, Duhu 69, D 408, Derivis 6, DN 244, Dias 240, Di 100, Etus 42, Eros 80, Etta 344, Edith 111, Iman 44, Iman with 2 M's 444, Fes 11, Fo 666, 4 FOOR 333, Go GOE 400, Gal 600, Gal 500, Gal 200, Gal 111, Gu, 888. Ha, 10. Hai, 110. Ha, with 2 A's, 120. Hall, HAWH, 464. High with a Y, 964. High with an I, 666. Ham, 7. Ho, 999. Ho ho, 99. Ho ho, 9. Hagar, 33. Hag, 11. Haga, 99. Hague, 18. Haas, 365. Hoy, 12. Who, with an H at the end, 200. Hoyt, 950. N, 27. Inez, 274. Itu, 674. Ka, 6. Cabal, 66. Kabbalah, 666. Cox, Kaax, 33. Kai, 4. Kii, 999. Kisiv, 18. Lu, 999. Lo, 11. Loos, Loos, 33. Loose, 66. Loose, 666. Lu, 10. Lulu, 100. Lens, 200. Mas, 1. Mas, 4. Mas, 18. Ma, 600. Mot, 500. Me, 1. Mara, 66. Myra, with an I, 100. Mithra, 666. Mayus, 40. Ni, 88. Ni, 888. Niv, with 2 I's, 846. Ness, 11. Nestor, 111. Nice, 33. Nu, 880. Nai, 500. O, 1. Oho, 33. Ois, 91. Ois, 991. New with a P at the beginning. I think it's silent. Pneu, 9. Peuta, 8. Ra, 44. Re, 744. Raz, 600. Russ, 400. Rufus, 66. Sue, 248. Suis, 999. C, 16. Sa, 441. Tay, 999. Tay, 666. Ty, 33. Tuss, 18. Vri, 111. Zed, 66. Zudu, 4. Zediki, 44. That's the end of that chart. Go to page 512. Real quick, Cosmogony Cow. It is the most powerful book in OAHSPE so far. Look, listen, real quick. You can answer this question down in the chat. You said something yesterday about talking to Susan B. Martinez. When are you having that interview? Because if we can ask questions or send questions in so you can ask, I got a couple questions I want to write down and send to you so you can ask Ms. Martinez. I really got some burning hot questions. So whenever you're having that interview with her, where it's going to be live, let me know so I can plan ahead of time so I can make sure everything is quiet and so I can tune in, right, without interruption, possibly. Just let us know what day. You may have said it last night, but I may have missed it, may have blacked out or blinked out for a second, but I don't remember hearing the date. But if you know the date, please post it here so I can save it. Thank you. Okay. Yala Pesta is another chart, maybe timeline. Okay, but it has the reference letter, what is that? I after it. So before we start reading this timeline or number line or what this is, let's hop to the end of the chapter, which is just a couple pages over. On page 515, and I says, ancient words and symbols are discussed in Book of Safa. Okay, and actually, we start in Book of Safa next. So that's all it says for that. So we literally have this 2 more chapters. No, sorry. 4 more chapters, but it's really short. It's like 3 1/4 pages. Okay, so Ya La Pesta, and under it, it has a number chart. So the first is 2274, and it says 7 changes, i.e. Hout, Howt, Oat, Bun, Lis, Vu, Me, and Ruth. Okay, so some of these is on this chart with these numbers that I just finished reading. Okay. 2274, 7 changes, i.e. Hout, Oat, Bun, Lis, Vu, Me, and Ruth. Okay, so for 2274, it says 7 changes, i.e. Hout, Oat, Bun. And the next line under 2274, and they have brackets pointing to both of these two number lines, pointing to both of these two lines. And under 2274 is 821, and that is a part of the previous line, which says Lis, Vu, Me, and Ruth. Okay, so the next one down is 4750, and that's Nista, 6 changes, i.e. Woods, Norse, Ru, We, Real, and Go. The next number is 1060, and that's 2 changes, Ayant and Fo. 1768, 4 changes, Mathai, Yam, Luke, and John. That's interesting. Hold on. Okay. 1245, 8 changes, Wu, Gosa, Lo, Galeb, Nor, Nu, Di, and Yun. Next, 1790, 6 changes, Lu, Chong, Oak, Chan, Clips, and Whis. 108, 2 changes, Yesane and Si Tarin. 3644, 12 changes, Yats, Rope, Sum, Div, Hong, Ras, Rock, Mur, Ute, Theo, Eek, and Mar. 1746, 11 changes. Okay, and so the changes are Z, U, Chi, Gao, Ram, Lutz, Wang, Said, Do, Ghost, and Yun. 3601, there were 3 changes, Hak, Gi, and Kong. 47, 3 changes, Sim, Will, and Lu. 9278, 4 changes, Lay, Bomb, Ross, and Fur. 326, 8 changes, Wands, Yine, Seb, D, Yeniv, Gan, Lee, and Rock. Last one, 2340, 12 changes, Mark, His, Thor, Bess, Lynn, Triv, Gam, Zet, Hout, Sang, Tum, and Gouts. All right. That is the end of that chapter. Where we at? We're at 1 hour and 8 minutes. That's it. Let me. It's so quiet. We're at 1 hour. Let me try and read one more chapter. Listen, because this look like it's about getting good. Saying some more stuff about prophecy and students. Okay, chapter 8, page 512. Let Eth stand as 1, Ga as 2, Agi as 3, and Corpor as 4. To Eth give motion 100 or 99, as the case may be. To Corpor give 0, that is, no motion of itself. To Ga give 66. To Agi give 33. Eth, being the time of light, is named Dan. Ga, the time of fevers, epidemics, plague, and Agi, the time of wars, dashing forth with power and grasping, me, the earth, being the subject. There is still another period to all corporal worlds, Luts, Luts. In the time of Lut, there falleth on a planet condensed earthly substances as clay, stones, ashes, molten metals disseminated, and so on, in such great quantities that it can be compared to a snowstorm piling up corporal substance on the earth in places to a depth of many feet and in drifts of hundreds of feet. Lut was by some ancient prophets called Uz, U-Z, because it was the time of destruction. If Lut followed soon after a Samoan period, When portions of the earth were covered with simu and rank vegetation, it charred them, penetrating and covering them up. Thus were made for the most part the coal beds and oil beds in the earth. Lutz belongeth more to an early age of a planet, when its vortex is more extended, and when the nebulous clouds in its outer belt are subject to condensation, so as to rain down on the earth these corporal showers. If you watch the movie Lucy, all the way at the end, when she is about to disintegrate and become one with the atmosphere, she's sitting there in a chair and all these things are passing before her eyes, right? She's traveling backward in time, right? From the current city hustle bustle, moving around on the earth, all the electronics and everything, it starts going back time periods all the way, and then you see like Aji or comets and stuff falling. You see cavemen, all that. That was real good. I'm gonna see if I can find that. I'm gonna show that little scene. That's what this is just reminding me of. Let me put Lucy. Chair scene. Okay, listen. Verse 5. Lutz belongeth more to an early age of a planet, when its vortex is more extended, and when the nebulous clouds in its outer belt are subject to condensation, so as to rain down on the earth these corporal showers. The time of Dan is the opposite of this, and although it is the time of spirituality amongst mortals and the time of prophecy and inspiration, yet it is the time the earth is rapidly giving off its life force and its moisture, rapidly growing old. Consequently, the two most important periods for the prophet's consideration come within 33 and 66, or as they said of old, man and beast, in which measure man is divided into two parts, man and beast, and there is ever a percentage in his behavior inclining to one or the other, and they correspond to the vortexian currents of the earth. The student must not consider merely individuals, but nations and peoples belonging to continents, and the relationship that cometh of Aji or Dan, or their percentage, must have reference to such nations or peoples as manifest to its influence. Thus, suppose a grade to run below 33, but not as low as 22, and such a people fall under Aji for a period of 66 years, or even more. War, destruction, death, and lust will come upon that people. But suppose the same fall of Aji come upon a people graded above 33 to 66. Ooh, hold up. Wait a minute. I'm gonna read it, then I'm gonna reread it. But suppose the same fall of Aji come upon a people graded above 33 to 66. War and intellect, or oratory, music, and remarkable men of genius will result. But to carry it still further, the same fall of Aji coming on a people above 66, they will manifest in multitudinous lords, gods, and saviors, and in superstitions, rites, and ceremonies, which will all more or less pertain to sexualisms. Let me go back. I'm going to read 9 again. I'm going to start at 8. Let me just go to 7. I'll start at 7. Consequently, the two most important periods for the prophet's consideration come within 33 and 66, or as they of old said, man and beast, in which measure man is divided into two parts, man and beast, and there is ever a percentage in his behavior inclining to one or the other, and they correspond to the vortexian currents of the earth. The student must not consider merely individuals, but nations and peoples belonging to continents, and the relationship that cometh of Aji or Dan, or their percentage, must have reference to such nations or peoples as manifest to its influence. I'm thinking about the different grades of people, like in Africa and then over in America, China, just the different things and the people as a whole. That's what I started thinking about. And like the level of, not to sound like, mean, or like the level of smarts or intelligence, so to say. Not saying that there's not smart people in other places, because there are genius people in other places, but they're part of a bigger whole. But to consider all of that, you have to not just consider the one-offs, right? You have to consider them as a whole to see what's going on. Okay, I see it. Okay. Consequently, the two most important periods for the prophet's consideration come within 33 and 66, or as they of old said, man and beast, in which measure man is divided into two parts, man and beast, and there is ever a percentage in his behavior inclining to one or the other, and they correspond to the vortexian currents of the earth. The students must not consider merely individuals, but nations and peoples belonging to continents, and the relationship that cometh of Aji or Dan, or their percentage, must have reference to such nations or peoples as manifest to its influence. Thus suppose a grade to run below 33, but not as low as 22. And such a people fall under Aji for a period of 66 years, or even more, war and destruction, death and lust will come upon that people. But suppose the same fall of Aji come upon a people graded above 33 to 66, war and intellect, But suppose the same fall of Aji come upon a people graded above 33 to 66, war and intellect with oratory, music, and remarkable men of genius will result. But to carry it still further, the same fall of Aji coming upon a people above 66, they will manifest in multitudinous lords, gods, and saviors, and in superstitions, rites, and ceremonies, which will all more or less pertain to sexualisms. So I think, I'm going to just speak for America, and I could be wrong, right? I think we fall, for the most part, America or North America, not saying other ones don't, but for the most part, it seems to me that America falls within the 33 to 66 grade. There definitely are some higher, definitely some lower, but I think as a whole, we fall, I could be wrong. I think we fall within that 33 to 66. Okay. But suppose the same fall of Aji come upon the people graded above 33 to 66, war and intellect with oratory, music, and remarkable men of genius will result. But to carry it still further, the same fall of Aji coming on a people above 66, they will manifest in multitudinous lords, gods, and saviors, and in superstitions, rites, and ceremonies, which will all more or less pertain to sexualisms. Nate, shalom, shalom, shalom. Verse 10. The prophet is thus enabled to determine by the vortexian currents the rise and fall of nations, and to comprehend how differently even the same showers and shadows of the unseen worlds will affect different peoples. And the same rules apply in the manifestation of Dan. According to the grade of a people, so will they receive its light. If below 33, they will become magicians and prophets without virtue. If above 33, but below 66, they will become self-opinionated malefactors, running into licentiousness for self's sake. If above 66, they will become true prophets, abnegating self for the sake of righteousness, which is where we want to find ourselves. Y'all so thick. Shalom over here on Facebook. Listen, we want to make sure we're above 66, our grade. I ain't saying stop there. You can keep going. Let me just read that again. This is really good. The prophet is thus enabled to determine by the vortexian currents the rise and fall of nations, and to comprehend how differently even the same showers and shadows of the unseen worlds will affect different peoples. And the same rules apply in manifestation of Dan. According to the grade of a people, so will they receive its light. If below 33, they will become musicians and prophets without virtue. If above 33, but below 66, they will become self-opinionated malefactors running into licentiousness for self-sake. Clearly, America is definitely in the 33 to 60 cent group, right? And there's very, very few, even though there's a plethora, a slew of prophets running around America and all over the earth, I can't think of one right out. Maybe on one hand, and I think all of them are dead right now. Any of them, I don't think is any, and I could be wrong. I don't know everybody either. So let me backtrack. I don't know everybody, but I can't name one at the moment that I can recognize as being 66. Like I said, not saying that they're not out there. I just haven't come across them yet. I'm still lacking information. But according to my knowledge, I can't name you like one where I can just rattle off the name that I can say, this is a true prophet that understands all of this and prophesies correctly according to the Creator. Listen. If below 33, they will become magicians and prophets without virtue. If above 33, but below 66, they will become self-opinionated malefactors, running into licentiousness for self-sake. But if above 66, they will become true prophets, abnegating self for sake of righteousness. Let the student compare the Faithists of Capelia in India with the Kohums of the same country, and the Faithists of Moses in Egypt with the Egyptians of the same country. The Faithists of both countries advanced, but their persecutors both went down to destruction. The peace of the Faithists held for 400 years, and then both peoples began to choose kings, which was followed by 999 years of darkness. So that whether the vortices show approaching light or approaching darkness, the prophet must bear in mind the grades of the people. So that whether the vortices show approaching light or approaching darkness, the prophet must bear in mind the grades of the people. Any given light amongst mortals as to the past will thus show the date of its occurrence, whilst the heavenly light will equally foreshow what will come upon any people. It is not sufficient for man to know how to prophesy, but to learn how to overcome the elements of his surroundings. Boy, we got some prophets up here that don't even know how to keep a roof over their head. You telling me? Don't get me started. Listen to this. I mean, it would make sense because, bruh, you telling me what? And you living well? Huh? You what? You asking me for money. Shouldn't a prophet be able to teach us? Verse 13, page 513, verse 13. It is not sufficient for man to know how to prophesy, but to learn how to overcome the elements of his surroundings. As previously set forth, there are regions of drought on earth which man must learn to overcome by causing rains to fall. You might as well cross out everybody that got the title prophet and anything above that on their name. Because who is making rain? Which one of them is making rain? Like, boy, hold up. Let me highlight this. It is not sufficient for man to know how to prophesy, but to learn how to overcome the elements of his surroundings. As previously set forth, there are regions of drought on the earth, which man must learn to overcome by causing rains to fall. He shall provide explosive gases high up in the air, which shall break the wind currents, establishing vortices from the upper regions downward. Hey, girl, hey. And when an epidemic is prophesied to a city, man shall dissipate the falling sea moon and thus save it from destruction. What prophet is doing that? They just prophesying doom and gloom, and we about to be caught up in it. So go stock up food, make sure you got enough water. Like, hell for what? Strike the title prophet off your name and anything above it. Matter of fact, and any of them titles below it, just cut them off. Cut them off. All y'all getting on my nerves. Listen, let me read it over again. Chapter 8, page 513, Book of Cosmogony and Prophecy, verse 13. It is not sufficient for man to know how to prophesy, but to learn how to overcome the elements of his surroundings. As previously set forth, there are regions of drought on the earth which man must learn to overcome by causing rains to fall. He shall provide explosive gases high up in the air, which shall break the wind currents, establishing vortices from the upper regions downward. And when an epidemic is prophesied to a city, man shall dissipate the falling sea moon and thus save it from destruction. The inoculation or vaccination of flesh with poison to save it from poison is to use the battle axe of Satan. The inoculation or vaccination of flesh with poison to save it from poison is to use the battle axe of Satan. All y'all pastors and religious leaders telling people to line up at your church because you done made your church a hub to receive the jab. Ooh. Hold on a second. Ugh. Breaking up. If they ain't up, tell them go ahead and get up. So we get ready to get out of here in a few. Let's go. Shower. Listen, look. Cosmo said, they say the true prophet will be understanding of hardships and poverty, so the real prophet's probably going to be broke. So, man, they can kiss my foot with that. Listen, look, hold on. Let me go back. Some prophets will be broke. Definitely. They will be broke. I ain't trying to say because it's like a holy thing to do, but they can be broke just because they ignorant, right? But true prophets won't get attached to riches, right? It won't define you. It'll just be like another resource that you use, just like you use a pen to write, right? That's what I think, listen. Let me go back to 13. Let me keep it all together. This is beautiful. Listen, I don't know what my title gonna be today. This is definitely gonna probably be something out of this chapter. Listen, let me just go back. Listen, verse 13. It is not sufficient for man to know how to prophesy, but to learn how to overcome the elements of his surroundings. As previously set forth, there are regions of drought on the earth, which man must learn to overcome by causing rains to fall. He shall provide explosive gases up high in the air, which shall break the wind currents, establishing vortices from the upper regions downward. And when an epidemic is prophesied to a city, man shall dissipate the falling sea moon and thus save it from destruction. The inoculation or vaccination The inoculation or vaccination of flesh with poison to save it from poison is to use the battle axe of Satan. So we're going to create this what you darn call it? The vid injection. What is that called? It's right there on the tip of my tongue. I forgot it that quick. But anyway, you know how so you don't get the flu, they give you a flu shot, which is a strand of the flu inside of the mixture to inject into your flesh to help you overcome. They taking poison, shooting it into your flesh to help you overcome the poison. This is exactly what this just said. Listen. And when an epidemic is prophesied to a city, man shall dissipate the falling sea moon and thus save it from destruction. The inoculation or vaccination of flesh with poison to save it from poison is to use the battle axe of Satan. Man shall learn the higher law to save by virtue instead of vice. As to the grades, the student is referred to the book of S. Prophecy is not guesswork. Absolute rules govern all things. A few individuals in a nation or of a people are a small matter, nor must the prophet swerve one jot or tittle by the pretensions of a people. As for example, the Brahmas, the Buddhists, the Mohammedans, and the Christians all profess faith in their respective gods and saviors, but their professions are false. I like that. We already knew that, but anytime I can say highlight that, letting people know it's a farce, highlight it. Some people still don't really see the farce in it all. But as we keep progressing in time and the truth is revealed and all these false gods and saviors and lords are put down, people will be able to clearly see. Prophecy is not guesswork. Absolute rules govern all things. A few individuals in a nation or of a people are a small matter, nor must the prophet swerve one jot or tittle by the pretensions of a people. As for example, the Brahmins, the Buddhists, the Mohammedans, and Christians all profess faith in their respective gods and saviors, but their professions are false. Their faith is in soldiers and standing armies and in implements of destruction. Think about it, even the Christians, right? Look, they're more peaceful today, but they was more bloodier than those who worship Muhammad. In Islam, look, their faith is in soldiers and standing armies and in implements of destruction. The prophet must not, therefore, suffer himself to hearken to individual explanations. He must grade them in their entirety, whether they manifest below 33 or above 66, without regard to pretensions. When the student hath completed his tables of Oraknabagala with the history of the period and taken the measure of grades of the different nations and peoples of the earth, he will find that he can not only foretell the future, but he can discover the past history for an equally long period of time. And when he hath thus completed 2 cycles, he can find a third, and then a fourth, and so on until all the past history of the earth is delivered up unto his understanding. Boy, look, this is going to be my main go-to book. Listen, because we got to understand all this. Bruh, look, who prophesies this accurately, right? There's a few people. One person, listen, let me go back and take back what I had said. Clearly, Susan B. Martinez can do this. I would recommend her book, even though I'm still going through it. Time Quickening, was it A Time of the Quickening? The Quickening book she did, right? This really breaks all of this stuff down. I'm still at like chapter 2. But what I'm getting so far It's really, really good. It's definitely, if there was a course along with this, I would definitely say that book is a prerequisite. It was a part of the coursework just because she went through it and she has examples, and not just in that book, but all her books, especially her understanding of the spiritual realm. Remember the Spirit Field Guide? Let me show you again. Look. I got two of them. One downstairs, and I got one upstairs. And I got it on Audible, and I got it in my Kindle. Look, listen here. This right here, what I've read in here, remember I said, it's this person I know, right? And I think they're, for lack of a better word, possessed. I'm trying to figure out how to set them free. She has brought so many things to light. It helped me understand the situation, overall thing that's going on. Words that come out of this person's mouth that I can clearly tell do not belong to this particular person. Matter of fact, the conversations that this person has, you can tell the switching of entities. Y'all, when I say it freaked me out, it freaks me the heck out, right? But we love this person. We want to see this person free. And it's like, these are some of the questions that I got from Miss Martinez. I'm not sure if Cosmo and Cal put the date. Hold on, let me scroll back. Maybe you don't answer my question yet. Maybe you did. Let me scroll back up. Because I'm so serious, I got some questions. And if you're going to be talking to her, I can hand you the questions, and maybe you can ask her while y'all live so I can hear. Listen, hold on, let me go back up. I'm just trying to see if you put a date. Cosmo and Cal. Cal P, you put a date? When you interviewing Miss Martinez. You ain't put it yet? Did you put it? Hold on, I'm scrolling up. Trying to see. Nope, you ain't put the date yet. That might mean you're still working on the date. I'm watching. You might do a video when you say you're gonna do it. I don't know. I'm gonna be watching. I got a bunch of questions, and you know what? The questions might be answered while I finish going through the but right now they're burning questions. But I'm still working. I'm still working to learn all this stuff. But we got, hold on. Like Selah Shalom said, it's an active spirit in the building. Look, we're trying to figure this out. Because I'm like, girl, that person's scared. That person's scared the HE double hockey sticks out of me. Listen, I'm really serious. We need to know how to do this, right now. Alicia, listen, hold on. Look, if you're still in here, you got to go back to the beginning of the video. We read over something in here that we was talking about last night. I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna call you when we're done. Let me go back. Let me finish this. I'm getting sidetracked. Okay, listen. Let's go back up. Let me go back up to verse 17. Oh, yeah. I think we'll pause. I'm going to just... Oh, rules in College of Prophecy. Okay, I'm going to reread 17 to 19, and then we're going to pause right here. But what I think I'm going to do tomorrow when we come back, I'm going to reread all of chapter 8 so we can flow right into the next two chapters, and we're going to end this tomorrow. But I kind of want to keep all of this together. But we are already an hour and a half, and I need to end it right in a few minutes. Okay, back up. Let's just go back to verse 13 on page 513. It is not sufficient for man to know how to prophesy, but to learn how to overcome the elements of his surroundings. As previously set forth, there are regions of drought on the earth which man must learn to overcome by causing rains to fall. Excuse me. He shall provide explosive gases high up in the air, which shall break the wind currents, establishing vortices from the upper regions downward. And when an epidemic is prophesied to a city, man shall dissipate the falling sea moon and thus save it from destruction. The inoculation or vaccination of flesh with poison to save it from poison is to use the battle axe of Satan. Man shall learn the higher law to save by virtue instead of vice. As to the grades, the student is referred to the book of S. Prophecy is not guesswork. Absolute rules govern all things. A few individuals in a nation or of a people are a small matter, nor must the prophet swerve one jot or tittle by the pretensions of the people, as for example, the Brahmins, the Buddhists, the Mohammedans, and the Christians all profess faith in their respective gods and saviors, but their professions are false. Their faith is in soldiers and standing armies and in implements of destruction. The prophet must not, therefore, suffer himself to hearken to individual explanations. And that look like individual prophecies. That's what that looked like to me. The prophet must not, therefore, yeah, listen, right. Because even if we look, you know how people be giving these individual prophecies? Yeah, I don't think that should be happening. You can look at individuals and you can, you'll be able to tell what the individual, I mean, I guess you could if you understood as a whole what was happening, which would allow you to give an individual prophecy, right? You would be able to clearly see that, but not saying that you should give an individual prophecy. You know, I mean, if you want to help somebody, okay, right? But to make a job and a whole trade of it, it's probably wrong on an individual level, right? But if we look, even if we look at the prophets of Israel, it was rare that you saw them giving individual prophecies. The prophets like Jeremiah, Isaiah, it's rare that you seen them giving individual prophecies. It was always to the nation of Israel, right? The prophet must not, therefore, suffer himself to hearken to individual explanations. He must grade them in their entirety, whether they manifest below 33 or above 60 or above 66, without regard to pretensions. When the student hath completed his table of Arachnibagala with the history of the period and taken the measure of grades of the different nations and peoples of the earth, he will find that he can not only foretell the future, but he can discover the past history for an equally long period of time. And clearly, Susan B. Martinez can do this, right? I would classify her as a true prophet, although she don't go around saying I'm a prophet, but you can clearly tell her understanding this is the working of a true prophet. And when he hath thus completed 2 cycles, he can find a 3rd, and then a 4th, and so on until all the past history of the earth is delivered up to his understanding. And this, my beautiful people, is where we will pause today. We will finish this tomorrow. Like I said, I'm going to reread chapter 8. And it's only, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm going to reread chapter 8, 9, 10, and 11. The 11th chapter is the last chapter, and these next ones is pretty short. Like chapter 9 is 11 verses, chapter 10 is 10 verses, and chapter 11 is 14 verses, right? So we're definitely going to finish that tomorrow, and we're going to start in the book. But that might take us to the end. Then we'll start in the book of Safa, right? And we'll probably just end it, unless we finish like in a half hour's time, but then we'll start the book of Safa. But anyway, y'all, that's it for today. It is Wednesday, August the 24th, 2022, day 194 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1212. We read pages 508 to 513 in OAHSPE, book of Cosmogony and Prophecy. Father, help us to understand as true prophets understand. You know what? Hold on. That is selfish. That is not what I'm supposed to be doing. That's making it all about us when I should be lauding praises on him. Okay. Father, you are the most... Hold on. Let me just think about this. Let me think about what I want to say. Because what I was about to say, it was selfish again. It has to be nothing about us, just about him and his magnificence. Father, you are so magnificent. I am at a loss some days on what I should say, because I just don't think in my language, in the English language or any other language for that fact, can completely describe the magnificence of who you are and your endless imagination and creativity that you have allowed us to partake in as we grow. Yeah, That's it for the day. Look. All right, y'all. So with that being said, we about to be out of here. I don't think I missed no question. I think everybody was just kind of talking. All right, y'all. The Bronze Yoga Report. Shalom. Shalom. All right, y'all. We about to be out of here. Let me call Bella real quick. Bella! Tell her, come on, I'm about to end it like right now. All right, y'all. It was fun hanging out. This is so good. I love this book so much. All right. I'm waiting for her to come down the stairs. All right, so I will be looking out. I'll be listening for the dates. Cosmo and Cal, when you gonna be interviewing Miss Susan B. All right. All right, so with that being said, we out of here, good people. Love y'all. See y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Look, Cookie Monster. There they go. It looks like they're hiding in Sesame Street. Silly numbers.
The app name. Which app? Hold on. Yeah, I did. You talking about the
Well, they're all hiding.
the
I saw the first three go into Cookie Monster toy. Ooh,
I posted it yesterday. If you're talking about the solar system app, Skywalk. It's two of them I posted. If that's what you're talking about, Tickler. I did. The moon app. I didn't post the moon app, but within the Skywalk and the other one, it's in there. But I post the moon app too. I have posted that. It's been months since I posted that. But I posted it again. But go back and look for Skywalk. It's two of them. They are extremely awesome. All right, y'all. We out. Go ahead. Put it through.
Where are we going?
Camp.